felt so real. The other ones are fake. This one is amazing. This one is good.
Call now for a free psychic reading and find out how to get $250 worth of free readings every month.
Call 1-800-980-8630.
Right now, it's your local forecast on the Weather Channel.
Heavy snowfall like this in Cincinnati, Ohio, is crippling parts of the Midwest and the Northeast, and the weight of the accumulation is being blamed for the collapsing of this filling station canopy. Welcome to Weather Center, being brought to you by VH1. I'm Paul Emick.
And I'm Sharon Resultant. This winter storm is going to continue its trek eastward, dumping more snow, rain, and even some freezing rain as it does. Let's go ahead and take a look at what's happening right now. We'll start you out first, actually, with a look at snowfall amounts. Not too terribly impressive in areas like Boston, where you picked up an inch and you've now changed over to rain. But more impressive snows as you go west of D.C., around Wolfsville, Maryland, 8 inches. Frederick, Maryland, around half a foot there. And around the Baltimore area, 4 inches. Now on top of that in Baltimore and also into Philadelphia, you're getting the freezing rain. So a layer of snow and then a layer of ice, and it's a real mess heading into parts of the north and east. This about sums it up across the Northeast. The white indicating where the snow is flying, the orange indicating where you're finding the frozen precipitation, specifically the freezing rain. Some of you will see that warmer air edge up far enough north that you'll change over to rain during the overnight. Some of you, as warm as it gets, is the freezing rain, and you'll eventually change back over to snow. So it is going to be a very big mess as we travel in the Northeast during the overnight. Things will be maybe somewhat improved for your Saturday, but during the overnight, it's going to be a mess. Temperatures, as I mentioned, are cool. We're looking at an overrunning situation with a lot of cold air at the surface and somewhat milder air riding up and over that cold dome of air. So where we're seeing the warm air intruding, areas like Pittsburgh, it's raining. Once the front moves through, that will change back over to snow. But in the meantime, it's just a real big mess across much of the Northeast. Areas like Binghamton, New York, winter storm warnings in effect for you because you've got the freezing rain now and will most likely keep that for the better part of the overnight before you change over to snow heading on in towards Saturday morning and throughout the day on Saturday. So very messy situation for many of you here in the Northeast. Let's go ahead and take a look at areas like Pittsburgh, where you had some significant snow, and obviously that caused some significant problems. You can see these folks trying to get that car unstuck. Conditions are not going to get much better here. You had 2 to 3 inches of snow that snarled traffic for your Friday morning. Then it turned over to freezing rain, since then rain, but expected again to change back over to snow as we head into your Saturday, and that's why the winter storm warnings are in effect for you around Pittsburgh. As we take you up into northeastern Ohio, it's a snow event here too. We're even seeing a little bit of convergence here. You see the darker green, that's where the snow is coming down a little more fast and furious, and another batch of it over the central portion of Lake Erie. And so you're likely to find maybe underneath that darker green another 5 inches of snowfall before all is said and done, heading on into the overnight. And then some lake effect snow kicking in for northeastern Ohio, extending on into your Saturday. The snowy travel extends all the way back through Toledo and Detroit, back down toward the northern suburbs of Indianapolis, and then more of a rain event as we head further southward. Let's see if we can take you. Are we going to take another video? I guess maybe so. Chicago. I thought so. We're going to show you some snowy scenes out of Chicago. Steady light snow did fall here for really most of your Friday, making the walk a miserable one. It was really only enough to cause you to clean off the windshields. And notice everyone here bundled up. That's because your temperatures never really did make it out of the low to mid-20s. So a very wintry scene there in Chicago. And it looks like that will continue for the overnight. More snowy travel for you in and around the Chicago area. Well, finally, there's a look at your snowfall forecast, and where you find the cold air entrenched across northern New England is where most of the snow will accumulate. Let's talk about the spring-like thunderstorms in the south, Paul.
Right across the Southland tonight, Sharon, things are a little more spring-like, as you mentioned. Our big problem has been severe weather and also some flooding potential. Still pretty active. Here's a cold front, little lifter here, a leading edge of a slightly cooler air mass. Not as potent as the front to the north, but potent enough to keep the contrast alive and keep the storms popping. A lot of moisture has been in place here for some time. We had rain and storms last night, and in many of the same spots, we still have a risk tonight of additional severe weather. Anything in red shaded there, or even some of the orange shaded spots indicate where the strong storm risk will be. That eventually is pushing eastward. Even parts of Georgia and Florida could be under the gun this time tomorrow night. Tonight, the real problems could be with the tornado watches in effect. Parts of Alabama, across Mississippi, Louisiana, and into Texas. Anything in this area, you could encounter the risk of tornadoes in and around this watch area. Earlier today, about 4 miles west of Oak Grove in Louisiana, we did have the report of a tornado there. Also, lots of wind has been the primary problem with the storms that have been popping up, but presently no tornado warnings or severe thunderstorm warnings. Things are a little more stable, not quite as active as it once was, but still northeastern Louisiana, eventually on toward Jackson and elsewhere across Mississippi. Do expect the rainfall to continue, which could cause us additional flooding concerns. Mississippi, parts of southeastern Arkansas and northeastern Louisiana, pay especially close attention to the roadways if you live in a flood-prone area, especially in case the water may be rising. Tonight, further north, across northern Mississippi and into Alabama and also across Tennessee. Pretty wet time. Bit stormy, too, just a bit to the southeast of the city of Nashville. Looks like the rain will continue to hold on across the southeastern U.S. We discussed our precipitation and some problem spots across the southeast and the snow in the northeast. By contrast, things a little quieter across the west. Well, that story here, Sharon.
Oh, and thankfully so. Who needs all that action across the entire lower 48? It's so active in the east, but we make up for it in the west. Fairly tranquil, except for the northwest. And even here, it's not a real big problem. Most of the moisture has to ride up and over that area of high pressure, so it's missing you in Seattle. Eventually, we may see some of that begin to work its way across the Olympic Peninsula, infect portions of northern Washington state. But as we head into the next several hours on through the overnight, it's looking pretty good for most of you here. Temperatures, not bad. 44 in Seattle, 37 heading into Portland. Milder across southwestern sections of the lower 48. Real nice evening around LA and San Diego with readings in the 60s. Let's take a look at your Saturday forecast, Paul.
Okay, here's the happenings in the northeast. Big stable dome, a high pressure. That cool air has been in place, a very strong Arctic air mass. Things are getting a little milder, though, as some milder air is shoving up the coast throughout the mid-Atlantic and northeast. We've seen the warming and the change over to rain for New York City and Boston. There is a bit of a problem, though. Some of that rain falling in some interior sections where our temperatures are below freezing. That means big-time freeze potential. Could see some real sloppy driving even toward Pittsburgh, where the real cold air lies at the surface and way up there. We'll continue to deal with some snowfall, maybe 4 to 8 inches. Let's have a look across the country. Waking up in the morning, going to grab the paper in the northeast, parts of upstate New York. You're going to feel this quite cool. Not quite as bitter cold, though, as the real cold air settling in on International Falls. A little mild air across the southeast. That's till the front passes. That, too, will change as it scoots on by. Most of the country fairly quiet. Nice for Denver, L.A., and San Diego. But New York City, we're going to keep our rain around. Even some freezing rain concerns into parts of New York State. And some additional snowfall, too, eventually shoving eastward. It's really becoming pretty quiet in most areas. Heaviest amounts of rain in Mississippi into West Virginia and Virginia. Heavy snows in upstate New York, bits of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. The warmth is tough to find as we go through Saturday.
Okay, well, just ahead on TravelWise, the latest on road and travel conditions after your local forecast.
Now let's take a look at what Chicago looks like tonight with the snow coming down and a beautiful batch of white blanketing the Windy City. Have a look.
It felt